when it needs them, sticks them in a template, and then delivers them to your browser. That's why you can do things automatically in WordPress, like you can have a whole bunch of blog posts that you can summarize on one page and just have the first paragraph of each one, and then if you click on it, you go to the actual blog post. But neither one of those are really pages. They're collections of information pulled out of a database and displayed in a template. That's why WordPress themes are collections of templates that are used to display the content stored in the template. So if I want to use this on my own local computer, I can do all this myself, or I can get server front. Okay, I have to confess, I don't work for this company either. I've never taken a cent from him. I probably should. But then I would feel slimy recommending him, and he's so cool, and he's such a nice guy. This guy's in San Diego. Steven, if you ever go to WordPress, who's been to a WordCamp here? If you love WordPress and you get into WordPress and you really want to learn about WordPress, go to WordCamp. They're all over the world. There's one in LA every summer, WordCamp LA. They're like 2 or 3 day conferences all about WordPress, where WordPress geeks just get together and geek out. But I heard that this summer, and I was at the one 2 years ago, I didn't make it this year, I was out of town, but the one this year, in addition to the really geeky place where the developers go and compare notes about how to make plugins and stuff like that, the group that came to the beginner WordPress, how to use WordPress for business, was the biggest group they've ever had turn out. So don't be intimidated that only the geeks know there. They're definitely trying to cater to the beginners. Anyway, I met Steven at WordCamp, and I learned about him through WordCamp. And what he did was realize that all of that stuff is way more complicated than most of us can handle. And he created this tool, which I'm going to show you real quick. So I have a program on my computer called Desktop Server, which came from him. In fact, I'm going to click on this phone and start it from zero and show you how it works. So the first time you launch it, it says, do you want to restart desktop server with privileges? Yep. You see what it says? And when I say yes, it's going to ask me for a password, because when you're doing stuff like server and MySQL, you're going pretty deep into the root of your computer. So it's just asking me permission to operate on my computer. And now it's got a bunch of options. Now I'll tell you, there's a free version of this and there's a $100 version of it. The free version doesn't have the support for Dreamweaver. If you're somebody who likes using Dreamweaver to build themes in WordPress, this is your tool for sure. The free version also doesn't have the deployment option. One of the more complicated things about building a site on your computer is afterwards you have to publish it to a server. Some servers are easier to publish it to than others. Some provide more support for that than others. This tool will help you more on some servers than others, but the paid version has more support for that, and they offer some customer support. So I'm going to actually create a new WordPress site and show you how this works. But I have a number of WordPress sites already here that function, because once I start this up, it turns my computer into a web server. So when I go through this process, so let's call this LA Web. Just so you can see that this is completely for you guys. Create. If there's a typo in there, forgive me. It doesn't take very long. It's literally spinning up a new installation of WordPress. So remember, you can get WordPress off WordPress.org for free, but it's built into this tool. So every time you set up a new site using ServerPress, it spins up a new version of it. It's already there, so it's just installing it in a new instance. And it saves them all in a folder called WordPress, but you can save them wherever you want on your hard drive. And then it gives you a little URL, and if I click on that, it'll launch my default browser, which at the moment is Safari, although, okay, how many people use Google Chrome as their main browser? How many use Safari?
I use Safari.
What else do you guys use?
Firefox.
How many prefer Firefox?
No.
I'm intrigued. That's about a 3-way split. Go figure. Any Internet Explorer people here? Only for testing.
It's not called Internet Explorer, it's called Internet Exploder.
It's called Internet Exploder. Okay. Yeah, if you're not testing your site in different browsers, that's a whole other part of the lecture we can get to, but always make sure. Here's another tip. When you start working for a new client, the first thing I ask them is, what computer and browser do you prefer? Because that's the one I'm going to optimize for while we're in development. Right. And then after we're done developing, I'll do all the deep testing on all the different browsers and all the different computers. But you want to make sure that if they're using Internet Explorer on their, you know, a Windows 86, I don't know, really old laptop, you'd be surprised what some people still use at home or while they're traveling that can really trip you up. If you're building on Chrome and the latest version on your, state-of-the-art Mac desktop, your clients may not see things just like you do. And you should always test in multiple browsers before you test. Anyway, so I just built a new WordPress site in front of you that easily, thanks to this nifty little tool, ServerPress. If you Google ServerPress, you'll find them right away. Yeah.
Pretty cool, but what if you're working on a custom website
Sure. So you can also use this tool to suck down a site. So if you want, you can go get any WordPress site in the world, suck it down to your computer using this tool as well. If you go to his site, he has a whole lot of help files that'll walk you through that stuff. But yeah, you have to have password access to get to a site. You can't just suck a WordPress site down you don't have access to.
How about only customers for
Sure. So that is one of the limitations of building it on your own server. And honestly, I tend to do this for my own sites or in the very early development for a client. What I generally do with clients is one of the first conversations I have is, where are we going to host your site? And I set up a new, fresh installation for their site, and I deploy WordPress on that, and I start building it there with some kind of temporary URL. And there are a lot of ways to set up temporary URLs. Some servers are set up to do that for you. I have a few domain names that I just use as temporary URLs. And then once we're done, I switch that URL to their URL to go live. Does that make sense? There's another tip I'll show you about that as I set up this new site. That's a good thing to keep in mind. Never, ever use admin as your username. Anybody want to explain why while I do? Yeah, it just gives your attackers one less step to have to figure out if their username is admin. In fact, most people will go in and check the list of users in WordPress and make sure they've deleted the admin one. You can't delete the admin until you've created a new admin level user. So if you're logged in as editor, you can't do it anyway, but you have to have another admin to create it. Okay, so I'm setting this up really simply. So I'm actually doing the final installation of WordPress, and it's a success. Thank you. I'm going to save that password so it makes it really easy. I'm going to log in, and I made this super simple. Nobody would have trouble guessing this, but of course this is just for show. I'm going to log in. So one of the things I was just going to tell you, I can remember what it is, because there's a step as you do it, and I already skipped past it. There's an option when you set up a new WordPress site that says, do you want search engines to find this? Who knows where that is? Where is that in the settings? The search engine option. There is an option of whether you want search engines to find them. There we go. How do we use that? If you haven't gone through the settings, this is one of the first things I recommend you do, but there's a little option that, again, one of those things I learned the hard way with clients. I can find it.
The bottom.
Thank you. Okay. So this little tiny option, search engine visibility, why is this important? Because if I'm building a new site and a temporary domain name with all my clients' content and Google starts to find it, then it's going to get sucked into Google's search engine unless I have a really secure password on it and all these other things. So if you just click this little thing and it just says, Google, don't look at this one yet. Now here's the other side of that tip. Make sure you check this again when you launch the site, or your client will really be bummed about their search ranking, okay? So this is one of those things you make a note. This is on my before launch checklist and on my we're setting up a new site checklist. So when we set up a new site, we turn off search engines, especially if it's on a live server, so that we can work a little more privately. That doesn't mean Google can't get to it. That doesn't mean anybody in the world can't get to it if they know the URL. It just says, Google, hey, we're not really ready to be indexed. Please don't. And for the most part, Google does seem to respect them. And then when you launch, turn that back on and say, Google, here we are, please don't load. Now, if you really are doing something that needs to be protected and not have that happen, then you need a programmer who understands how your server works to set up some kind of a protected directory with password level access. And there are people in the room who probably could do that for you. I have some programmers on my team that do that. And sometimes I go so far as to actually create a password protected site so that I know that nobody's going to get there without me knowing it. But for most clients, this is enough. And I tell them that transparently. This doesn't mean your site's totally private. It just means, you'd be lucky if somebody was looking for you. They'd have to guess the URL, and you get the idea. So I'm going to say those changes always. So you get into WordPress for the first time, and okay, themes. So let me do a little basic coverage here about what's in WordPress, and some tips for getting started that might also help with some of the more advanced people if they're redesigning building sites. So this installation of WordPress came with 2 themes. But of course, there are thousands and thousands of themes in the world. I will facilitate a whole discussion about themes before today's over. But before I do that, I want to give you a quick overview. In fact, I have a slide I created just for this purpose that I think kind of helps. One of the things that's really confusing about WordPress, when you first started, and even if you've been using it for a while, really getting your head around all the different pieces of your awesome website can be confusing. So WordPress is that nice puzzle piece in the middle. I like to describe websites as puzzles with infinitely changeable puzzle pieces, right? At the end, you hope you create a beautiful picture, but along the way, the content can change, and the themes can change, and the plugins can change, and the widgets can change, and all these things can change. And they all work together to create one website. So your awesome website built with WordPress, the first thing most people think about is a theme. So a theme is not a template, it's a collection of templates. And some themes only have 1 or 2 templates, and some themes have many, many templates, and some people have tools that let you build templates within your theme. I'm going to show you some of those if you have. Then we talked about web hosting, that's a variable you got to worry about, and customization, so you can build your own themes. Those 2 sites I showed you, the Scientific Animation Company and the Post-Production House, those are completely custom sites. I did not buy a theme for them. Now, a lot of programmers who build custom themes will start with something like WordPress 2013, or WordPress 2012, or WordPress 2014. By the way, these get launched with the new versions of WordPress. These are made by Automatic and given to the world of WordPress.org. So they tend to be some of the most stable, reliable themes. They also tend to be the most vanilla plain themes. So if you want just a really simple blog, that's enough. But at the other end of the spectrum, if you're a programmer who's going to customize a theme, you often start with one of these because it's just got all the parts already in there. And you've got a good working version of it. You've got all the basic templates. You don't have to create every archive template and every other template. You've got stuff already set up, and you can customize it from there. So there are kind of 2 ends of the spectrum. You start with vanilla and you customize it, or you get one of the themes that's got a whole lot of stuff built into it and makes it easier for people who don't know PHP. And I can talk more about that later. But there are other pieces. So then there are pages and posts, which confuse a lot of people, but are really the heart of the power is the difference in how those work. So I'm going to give you the overview, and then I'll go detail into each one here. And then there's plugins. So think, I get a theme, that's my collection of templates. And then plugins extend the functionality of my theme. And this can be confusing because some themes have functionality of plugins, and sometimes plugins don't work with the theme you have. But as an example, I may get a theme that has some templates I really like. I like the way the front page looks, and the way they do the blog, and the way they do some of the different internal pages. But it doesn't have the slider I want. So I go find a plugin that adds the slider I want to the theme. Now maybe the theme came with a slider, I just didn't like it. So I turned their slider off and I added more sliders to plugins. You can also get plugins that back up websites. You can get plugins that help you move websites. So the world of plugins is extensive. And because WordPress.org is this open source world, if you're out in the real world, you can find a gazillion different kinds of plugins. Some of them are fantastic. Some of them are made by kids in a basement and really shouldn't be used in business. All due respect to the kids in the basement who made some of my favorite plugins. Pay those kids for the service. Yes. If you're using plugins and they say, please give me $5. The second time, if you're still using it, pay the $5. Okay, and then there's widgets. So widgets extend the. I think I have to show you the widgets. And this is why you can do it. So this site. I built the site for a Creative Live class. I had to put on here because people started asking me for chocolate. This is not really a site.
You didn't bring the
I
chocolate?
didn't bring chocolate.
Oh,
Oh my God, I was
I
so chocolate.
forgot to bring it for
You
you.
don't know I've been sick. I've been recording videos in Spanish all day. It's true story. Usually, yeah. In fact, at Creative Live, they know one of the big, one of the producers at Creative Live. If you don't know, Creative Live is a really cool online training site, and they do classes live. So like you're really live like this with 5 cameras and real people in the room and the internet audience is crazy. But the producers who are, you know, LA quality, really top notch, had this checklist for each of the instructors who comes there. And so they were going through a list of, you know, she needs this for her Photoshop class, and he needs this.
They have writers.
Janine needs things to throw at the audience. Mostly chocolate, but I also sometimes.
That makes an interesting tech writer. It's like your concert writer. I gotta have Evian on my
writer. My contract says must provide
chocolate.
I gotta stop talking about chocolate. I didn't put any today. It's really usually in my contract. Okay, so this is actually a pre-theme, and it's got a custom front page, but each of these sections down here is built with a widget. Okay, so let me see if I can log into this without too much trouble. This one's online. I've got another one locally. Okay. When you want to log into a website, you have to be able to see the screen. WP admin. So almost any WordPress site in the world, if you want to get to the login page, you just type WP-admin after the domain name and you get to this page. So if you ever forget how to log into a WordPress site, it's almost always / WP-admin and you get to the login page. If you don't let your browser remember. And so there are a lot of different themes out there. This is a relatively simple one, but it had a few features in it. So one of the things I like to do, I'm going to right click here, open a new tab, so you can see the front end of my WordPress site and the back end of my WordPress site. So the front end is what we call the thing everybody in the world sees, and the back end is what we call the dashboard. WordPress calls it the dashboard. Dashboard. Working within the confines of this. Okay. So a quick look at how widgets can help you customize a page. So if I go to Appearance, Widgets, the most common thing that you see in widgets is if you've got a blog, and you know on the right-hand side of the blog, there's like categories and search and tags and all that stuff is in the sidebar of most basic blog layouts. That's almost always done with widgets. But widgets can be used for any section of your site that the person who developed the theme wanted to make easier for you to edit yourself. That makes sense? So here I have the main sidebar has search category. And by the way, you can literally just drag and drop things out of that sidebar, which means probably up here. But then the whole page of this particular layout has 3 widgets. And in those widgets, I just put a text field, just a simple little text field. So this theme, and I'm jumping around a little, so if you're brand new, this may not make sense, but if you've been wondering about widgets and you're trying to get the full picture, just work with me. There's a place in the theme to edit this part of the page. But I knew that there were 3 spaces down here. Now every theme is different, that's the thing that's crazy, so sometimes you have to stumble around. But if you see the layout in their really nice, slicked out demo page, and you're trying to figure out how do I get stuff in that part of the page, a lot of times you'll find it in widgets. And if they're a good programmer, they've named it something like home widget 1, 2, and 3. So I knew, oh, those are the 3 boxes at the bottom of the home page. And I can drag anything in here. I can put a calendar in there. In fact, if I do that right now, so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So if I take this calendar and I just drag it here, I just added a calendar to this widget, and I see it. And I come back here and I refresh. It's going to look really weird. Oops. You see that? Oh, it's not downloading. Make sure I save it. Yeah, let's get it. The danger of live demos you haven't prepared for. Okay, so I put a calendar here. I've titled it calendar. I've saved it. With any luck, when I refresh this, something will appear. That's fine. It should have appeared right
Still
here.
loading though.
It's still
Still
loading.
loading.
It may just be being a little slow. We'll see if it comes in. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I mean, technically the way you do it is this. You right click and open it, or you just, visit the site. Here's why you have to do that. It's because it's dynamically pulling that out, right? It's sitting in the browser cache until you dynamically refresh that page and whatever changes get reflected. If this doesn't work, it's been a while since I've worked on the site. Trust me, it should have changed something in there. But I don't want to get bogged down with that. But the idea is to help you start to understand all these pieces of the puzzle. So you start with a theme with a set of templates. You can extend that functionality with plugins. You can customize the theme using widgets, and I'll try and show you a better example of that thing. And then you got this thing about pages and posts. This is another thing I'm going to show you in a very different kind of thing. Let me quickly give you the pages and posts comparison. So if you've been using WordPress for a while, you may say, oh, I know the difference between pages and posts, but so obvious. I don't need you to explain all this to me. Pages are best for evergreen content, like I'm going to create a page for the home page. I'm going to create a page for the About Us page. Services might be a page. Right? And pages don't have tags and categories the way posts do, but they can have subpages. So you can have an About page, and then you can have a page for each employee that was under that. And there's a nice menu feature in WordPress that lets you customize the menu in almost any theme. Most themes today support the menu features in WordPress. It's one of the things to look for in a theme. And posts are really more for ephemeral content, things that like blog posts, right? So if I'm updating my blog every day or every week, I do that with posts. But that collection of posts are displayed in a page. So I create a page for my blog, and those posts go into it. But what's kind of cool is you can use that functionality to organize all kinds of information. So, the risk of using some of these language, it doesn't really matter where you can understand the words on the site. This is a little website I just launched for some stuff I'm doing in Latin America. I'm doing a lot more work in Latin America, and part of why you haven't seen me here as much in the last year is because I'm traveling a lot more in that world. So I created this site. And one of the things I have in here is this little resources section. And in the resources section, I wanted to be able to add new resources, collections of information. So what you're looking at here is a page in WordPress, and each one of these boxes is a post that's displayed in that page. And what's kind of cool, if I go behind the scenes, it allows you some automation. So this is a very different theme than the last one I showed you. This theme has a tool called a builder. Remember, there's really vanilla plain themes. If you're a programmer, you start with a vanilla plain theme and you build it yourself. This particular theme is made by a company called Elegant Themes, like web serving and hosting companies. I don't work for any theme companies. I use many different themes, but Elegant Themes is a very popular one, very high design. And they have a relatively new option that lets you build pages in a very visual way, which is kind of nice. So this will help you understand. I'm going to open up a couple of different instances of this. So if I go into, if I go to the back end and you look at, and part of why I'm showing this is because it's a new site, it doesn't have a lot of stuff in there. So if you look at the pages, there's just a few pages on the site, right? There's, the home page, there's About Us, there's some tests that I did. Not all of these pages are visible. That's okay. I can work on stuff and save it in the back end. And then I have a bunch of posts. And the posts include both resources and some interviews I did. Yeah.
It's not visible.
If it's published, it might not be linked to anything. So if it's not linked to anything, it's there.
It's not in the navigation.
But you can't see it. So I've got some public pages that I can go to in the browser, and I can go to on my iPad and my iPhone and make sure I look good and stuff like that. And so they're linked. It's true. When you view drafts, sometimes it doesn't work. So if you want to see the menu feature, you're going to see how you can pull what pages are linked and what aren't. But pages and posts, which even advanced people don't always get how powerful this is. So I created okay. So this website is for entrepreneurial journalists in Latin America, people who are creating new kinds of news sites in Latin America. And so I've got a list of funding organizations that sometimes help them. And if you look in the categories, I have resources and I have interviews. And if you don't speak Spanish, you can probably figure out the cool social media stuff, resources and interviews. Now, yeah. Ah, buena pregunta. Creo que hay una versión en español, además de inglés, pero yo estoy usando el de inglés en español. So sí. I'm using the English version of WordPress. I'm just putting Spanish words into it. I believe there is actually a Spanish interface to WordPress if you wanted to see all of the words like posts and pages in Spanish. I believe there is a Spanish version you can get. Okay. They have a few languages. I was quite intrigued in some of the research I was doing before I came here today about how many people are using WordPress now. Most of the sites, as you might not be surprised, most of the WordPress sites in the world are in English. Most of the content in the world is in English, with the exception of Mandarin. Next year, Mandarin will exceed English as the most popular language on the internet.
Wow.
But Spanish is the third most spoken language on the planet, and it's grossly underrepresented on the internet. It's really part of why I'm personally working so much to try and help people create new sites in Spanish. But 5% of the WordPress sites in the world are in Spanish, and it's one of the largest categories after English. So it's kind of intriguing to see that. So that's a good question. So not to dwell this too much, I made a page called resources, and I created a whole bunch of posts that I used the category feature for resources. Now you can add categories, so I can have as many categories as I want. And then because I have a really cool template here that lets me organize all the posts in a certain category on one page, if I edit this page, there's a tool I'm using. Again, this is a little advanced, but I want you to see what's possible. This particular theme has a builder in it. More and more themes have builders. So this page builder let me build a section, and if I go in here, you can edit it. I chose the blog setting, and I chose the grid layout, and I said I only want the things that are tagged resources to show up on this page. And it magically puts them all there. I could create a new page and show you, but I think you get the idea. So that's just a glimpse into not only what you can do with themes that have builders, but what a lot of custom programmers can do as well. So on the surface, you say, okay, yeah, I get it. You have pages for your home page, for your About Us page. That all makes sense. You have posts for blogs. And posts can have categories and tags. And because of that, I can use them to do pretty complicated organization of content. Now, if you're just creating a brochure site that only has 6 pages, this may never matter to you. But if you're creating a site that you expect will have, 57 resources and hundreds of interviews, and you want every time you add a new post with an interview that it automatically goes on the interview page, and every time you add a resource, it automatically goes on that page. So every time I create a new post with any kind of resource and tag it resource, it automatically takes the place of this one and becomes the next one there, and it just goes down the page to the one. It's such a great it up into any category. So I can have only one category in each page I see, or I could have 3 of the 5 categories, or I could have one page that has one category and another page that has 2 categories and another one has 3, right? This is infinitely changeable. And then you have tags that let you sub-organize. That's a whole other complexity. Go ahead. Exactly. So if I click on this, it goes to the post. And the picture will come up. Exactly. So I created a page, and I used the builder, and I said in the builder, I want to create a grid only using posts that are tagged with the resources. And then I created another one, and I said I only want the interviews, but this one I designed differently. Same concept, different layout, right? So here I wanted you to be able to see those interviews. This is my friend in Spain, this is my friend in Miami. These are Skype interviews I do on video. And then these are cool people I actually got to invite into my living room. So these interviews, I laid out differently. I wanted those pictures to show up bigger and differently. So every theme has different options. The template has different options. But the internal functionality, the basic WordPress functionality of being able to embed posts into a page is one of the most powerful and I think underutilized things in WordPress, especially by people who are relatively new to WordPress. And some of these new themes that include builders that let you do that so easily are making it more accessible to people who don't know PHP. The PHP programs have been doing this for a long time. Yeah. I don't know those, but why don't you tell them why you like those?
Well, Digital Composer is a sort of drag and drop theme. So you create over WordPress and you can have the story, straight to stuff. But I don't know if that is something else.
Just to show you a custom application of it. And I did this years ago before the site was just recently redesigned. But what's kind of cool is, so this is so we knew that they'd be adding new animations on a regular basis. So each one of these featured products is a post. And so I can go to that featured project and because it has other related products. So you can say, these are all about cells, and I want all of these associated. And these are all about drugs, and I want them associated. And so every time I go into one, I'm looking at a post, and I'm seeing the related post. And I've got categories for illustrations and animation and interactive. So using the features of WordPress that let me create as many categories as I want, and then the tags that let me further sub-organize that, I can actually go farther and have related elements as I organize that. And just to show you where the tags are, so you can see this. Excuse me. As I said, the reason I'm using a microphone is so I don't lose my voice with this full. So I can add more categories and then I can add tags. I created a slide that's going to give you another idea of how this works. So let's say you're a photographer and it's sports photos, fashion photos, and portraits. But within sports photos, you have baseball, football, softball. Within fashion, you have New York, Paris, and within portraits, you have kids and professionals and teens. So that category and subcategory is a really good use of categories and tags. And that allows you to start creating a pretty complicated structural organization of websites with hierarchies and related information. And that can help you with something that I get asked about all the time, and I'm not going to talk much about SEO. There is a great SEO plugin I'll show you just to jump into plugin. And how many of you are worried about the bounce rate on your website? No, fess up. How many of you think your bounce rate is too high? If you know what I'm talking about, raise your hand. Anybody who knows what I'm talking about will raise their hand. If you use Google Analytics, and you look at the traffic reports on your website, you'll get a bunch of numbers at the top. You'll see how many people came this month, how many page views they actually looked at, and the bounce rate. And the bounce rate, in theory, means people who didn't like your site, you left. And a lot of times it's like 60%, 70%, 80% freaks people out. What it really is anybody who came to your site and only saw the one page they landed on, never clicked on another page. Right. So if people find you in Google, go to your site, read the article they want, and then go somewhere else, it counts as a bounce. Well, I don't know if that really is fair to call it a bounce. If they actually read something on your site,
if they got what they
needed. Yeah. So for that reason, a lot of people think the bounce rate thing isn't there. But if you've ever been to one of those sites that had a slideshow and you had to click on each slide separately, that's like kind of lower their bounce rate. Or add more page views so they can have more ad placement. So the long way to get to having relational structure to your site allows you to have related articles, which is one of the best ways to naturally and organically invite people to look at one thing on your site. Remember I said I should be able to tell what your site is in 3 seconds, but you should hold my attention for 3,000 seconds or more? Well, if every time you have an article, you have, here are the related articles, here are the things similar to that, then you're going to have a better chance of me clicking on that and going to see that. And when you use categories and tags, you can do things like create submenus made of those categories. How are we doing on time?
We are at the 7:55 mark. So do you want to, let's give you 5 more minutes and then give your voice a break.
So for anybody in the room wondering how much longer they have to sit here, we're gonna take a break in about 5 minutes. For me, who's have a break, we need a break in 5 minutes. And I'm trying to think what's the best way to use 5 minutes. Let's wrap up with some questions, and when we come back, I'll tell you more about things. Yes. Sure. So, well, I would say there are 2 plugins in the world of search engine optimization. I think I have them both in my here we go. WordPress SEO with Yoast, and the other very popular one is simply the all-in-one SEO pack. So I almost always try to recommend at least 2, if not 3 things, so I'm not overly endorsing one. For many years I used this one. It's great, it's fine, it's simpler. I admit I switched to this one because it's got a lot more features. I personally have become a fan of this. I have not met him like some of the other people I've heard here, but he has a huge following. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the most popular one now. And part of it is because he does some interesting things. So he adds a set of functionality. What you'll get with these is a new box in the back end of WordPress that lets you put in the title, the description, keywords. If anybody wants to know more about what those things are and how they matter, I can tell you about that later. But what's that? Yes, he has a great blog. He explains a lot about why this works, why it's important. He also has a pretty amazing feature that automatically generates this stuff for you. So if you have a site with 50 pages and you've never put descriptions and titles in your pages, when you install Yoast, he tries to guess what they should be and just sticks them in there. Now you may want to go in and change them, and you may follow his guesses. But that's a really kind of cool automation that helps a lot of people just kind of quickly get their SEO going. Yes.
Is it possible to use a study with a non-WordPress site, like a regular website, study from WordPress, and somehow adapt them to be used?
There are some plugins that are made with JavaScript, and there are some plugins that you'll get to the plugin site and it'll say, here's the WordPress version, any other. In general, if the plugin specific to WordPress work with WordPress, it doesn't mean if you know enough about programming, you couldn't change that. But for the most part, you don't want to try and put a round peg in a square hole. WordPress plugins are made for WordPress, but many of the makers of those will have another version that's made for you on a type of site. Are you, what else are you using?
Well, I made websites, I call it but I don't use WordPress, I'm doing WordPress now, and there's a lot of really interesting studies. I don't really see that I was and nothing trying to figure out how to do that. But you can't put what's on the regular.
Right. What tool are you using for your regular HTML CSS?
I usually use I do it with
Okay, so you're using a text editor. Because I was going to say Dreamweaver has some plugins that are similar to WordPress plugins, like their slider plugins and menu plugins to Dreamweaver. If you're using Sublime Text, I don't know if there are any plugins specific to that, but there are a lot of JavaScript tools if you know a little bit about editing JavaScript that you can add functionality using that. But many of us are migrating to WordPress for exactly that reason. You know that saying there's an app for that from the Apple Store? I would say in the world of WordPress, there's a plugin for that. And you just have to be aware that not all plugins play nicely with all themes, but most plugins and themes work together. The other thing that's kind of interesting is plugins can be a more permanent part of your site when you're switching around themes and vice versa. So if you have a plugin you love, but you decide to change the theme, you may be able to keep that plugin functionality. Like if your e-commerce is done with a plugin, but you decided to change the look with the theme, you might change the theme but keep the e-commerce plugin. Now, some themes have e-commerce built into them. Some things you need e-commerce added on to the plugin. I'll take one or two more questions and we'll take a break. He's saying that there's a jQuery plugin that lets you put the jQuery in if you know in the WordPress site. I don't do that myself. You can't just take any regular old jQuery widget out there in the web and put it on WordPress unless you know how to customize it into WordPress. Part of that's because you have to put things in different places. You have to know a little bit about JavaScript to do it. So if you just Google cool JavaScript plugins, don't expect all of those to work in WordPress. Unless you know. That sounds like a really good tip. Anybody who wants to know more about JavaScript, we should totally do with the break. Behind you, there's another question. That is such an awesome question to start up after the break with. He said, what about child themes? Yes, that's a really good thing. I'll just tell you briefly. The main reason that everybody recommends you make a child theme is because if all you're doing is changing your CSS a little bit to kind of tweak the design of your site, when you update your theme later, you're going to lose all that custom CSS unless you save that CSS in a special place that won't get overwritten when you update the theme. And one of the best ways to do that is to create a child theme. And it sounds like this crazy thing, like I have to create a theme. I don't know how to create a theme, but a child theme is really basically
a copy. Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. So I'll talk more about that during or after the break if you like. But enjoy each other. There's some smart people in this room, and we'll come back in what, 15, 20 minutes?
That'll work. Okay, thank you guys.